It's finally that time of the year again, Game Awards season, more specifically, Game of the Year season, because I've always been really interested in Game of the Year nominations and winners, because sometimes you get some great games that win, like God of War, Overwatch, and Breath of the Wild, and even some games that might not be in the great popular mindset, they still get some wins, like Last of Us 2. I don't know, I didn't play it. And today, on Monday, November 18th, we finally got our nominations for Game of the Year 2024, and we got some big ones. We got Astrobot, Balastro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantasio. These are games that I also expected, but also didn't really expect at the same time, because you got some RPGs in there, you got some platformers, you got some DLC, but this honestly really shocked me, because there are some games I didn't think would actually make it, but are actually in there now, and some other things like that, and it's gonna be really interesting to see what actually goes ahead and wins. So I thought it'd be fun to go ahead and just talk about, you know, these nominations one by one, and my own personal opinion with them, because I haven't played all the games. I only played maybe about like half of them in some aspects, so I think it'd be really fun to talk about my thoughts on all of them. And oh boy, do I have some thoughts about these nominations. So let's just jump into it and talk about why, how, and just the entire thing. So let's talk about these Game of the Year nominations. Starting us off, we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm not going to harp on this game too long because I made an entire video on this game when it came out, so I'm not going to talk about it for long, but this game is amazing to me. Like, this is the video game that made me into a big Final Fantasy VII fan and Final Fantasy genre in general. Like, the character interactions are so amazing, the combat is so crisp and clean, the music is so god tier, the story legitimately got me teary-eyed, the NPCs are fun, the minigames are really quirky, and overall, the world feels more lived in. It really does, you know, evolve on not only what the original game did, but also what Remake did in 2020, because this is a sequel to that. And I just really love this game. You know, when I first played it, when I got 70 hours into the game, I'm like, you know what, this is 100% gonna be nominated for Game of the Year, and I'm glad I kind of make the cut, because this game to me, like, this was my big game for 2024. You know, yeah, they had other games coming out like Astrobot, and they had you know stuff like that and all that, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was the game I was like, this is gonna save my Christmas money for, is what I'm gonna use my gift cards on, because this game is everything to me. And I played it, I beat it, and just overall, it was such a fantastic game and experience. And even if you aren't really a big Final Fantasy fan in general, I really honestly want people to play this game, because just for the hack and slash gameplay, the cool environments, and overall just the stuff you can do, because this game to me is wow, and it made me that Final Fantasy fan. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, great game, glad it made the nominations, and oh boy, what a great game. Next up, we have Black Myth Wukong, which is a game that I have not played yet, unfortunately, but from what I've heard from friends and gameplay trailers, this looks really crisp, you know, having like a more action-type Souls game and set in like ancient Chinese mythology, playing as like a, you know, a sort of monkey-type warrior. This game looks really cool. Now, I'm not one to really play lots of Souls games and stuff like that, but like, from the giant bosses scene, from the actual gameplay, this looks really good. You know, when this game came out, people were going insane for it, being like, this is the best thing ever, and this is really cool. And from what I've seen, it does look really good. I like games that give you so many options, being able to like control combat, different weapon types, and different healing, and even stuff like crazy giant combos you can pull off. I love stuff like that, and it looks like this game has it in spades. Now again, I haven't played the game yet. I plan to in the future, because it's definitely on my wish list, but my god, if this didn't get a nomination, I feel like people would have screamed. So I'm glad that they buckled down. They're like, yeah, let's give us our little Souls type action game, even though Souls games and action games kind of a little different thing. It's sort of in that camp, I've heard people say, so I'm not gonna complain about. But yeah, Black Myth Wukong looks really good. I'm glad it has the nomination, and oh boy, it's another game to add to my list of games I want to play, because this is really good. Up next, oddly enough, we have a card game in Balastro. This is a game I didn't really know anything about. My giant most experience with this game is seeing it being released on the Switch, and that's about it. And even then, I didn't really bother picking it up. But from the trailers, it looks like a very intense poker roguelike. That's what it's described as right now. And this looks really good, really addictive, really fun. And just the fact that they were able to grab like this fun combo roguelike gameplay into a card game is really cool. You know, the colors look great, the 8-bit aesthetic of the pixel art looks really great, the different cards I guess you can pull is really cool. Like, I'm watching the trailer right now, and that's what I'm seeing. Card packs you can go ahead and pull and get more decks. Just overall deck building, I think, is something I've really gotten into a lot more recently with, like, you know, with Pokemon TCG and all that. So just seeing a game that actually lets you build a deck and lets you know, like, destroy other people's enemies and get combos on combos, not to mention having like so many crossovers at that. This game looks really cool. A lot of people are kind of like, well, why did this game do it? Why is there no Silent Hill 2? And sure, I mean, yeah, some people like this more than Silent 2. I can't, whatever, it's fine. But honestly, Balastro, I mean, it looks like a fun, easy game to play. Only $20 on Steam right now. You can do a lot of fun stuff. It probably looks easy enough to play, easy enough to get addicted to. So you know what? This is a good one. I'm glad we're seeing, you know, more, you know, unique takes that aren't just action RPGs. Getting a card game in there, a roguelike card game, I'm down for it. Looks really, really cool, and I'm interested to see if it's gonna win anything else, because this is interesting, and I really do like how they went about this. I really do like it. Next up, we have Astrobot, which is a game that I honestly didn't think would make the cut because it was a 3D platformer, but I was surprised by the amount of positive reception this game got when it released back in September. Like, I love Astrobot. You know, I played Astro's Playroom back in the PS5 back in 2020, and that was a great tech demo, but Astrobot alone is just Playroom times a million in all the positive ways. You have ingenious and super creative platforming, a lovely, colorful, and beautiful art style, fantastic, hummable music, some really cool PlayStation cameos that people will be like, oh yeah, look, there's that character, fun power-ups, cool level concepts, and overall just a very fun, bubbly, happy feel. Like, this is a game to me that really harkens back to the old school 3D platformers of the early 2000s, like Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter, and even some older ones like Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie. This is a game that, to me, I thought would never happen, but my god, am I so glad that we live in a world where Astrobot exists, and the fact that it got a nomination for Game of the Year. A 3D platformer is just amazing, and Team Asobi deserves all the flowers for making a great, engaging 3D platformer in 2024, because I love 3D platformers. They're one of my favorite game genres really of all time. So just seeing it come out with a lovable character, fun references galore, and just making a great semi-fun story is really, really cute. I really like it. I really hope we get to see more of this series in general, because oh my god, it's so freaking good. And the bosses too. Got great bosses. I love it. So overall, Astrobot, I love it. It makes me so happy. And I'm so glad I got nominated, because my god, 3D platformers getting a resurgence is what I need, what I want. So this is just great. I love it. Astrobot, glad it's on here. Yes. Up next, we have Metaphor ReFantazio, which is also a game I never thought would be nominated ever. You know, I'm a big fan of JRPGs. I love the Persona franchise, and just seeing not only a brand new JRPG by Atlus, but just a brand new original IP in general is really, really cool. And just like from the trailers and from the bit I've played, because I've played a few hours of the game, the environments are so cool. The story of like the classes system is very interesting. The main characters are really cool and likable. The combat for being turn-based is not boring, but really adds some level of flair to it all, and just overall the game feels very polished and very cool. You know, if this was a game we would get into Persona 6, I'd be happy with it, because this game is just Persona levels of amazingness, but just in a more fantasy setting. And you know what, I'm down for it, and I'm really glad that this got a nomination, because you know, most people would think RPGs now have to be more, you know, real-time turn-based combat like Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth or Xenoblade Chronicles, but no, this game goes for the Persona 3 reload approach of just making turn-based combat more, you know, engaging and more fun, and I am so glad they went with it. You know, even something like the music and just exploring the overworld is so fun and so amazing that I want to finish this game so badly. I've only gotten a few hours in, like I said, so I don't know everything about it, but the fact that this game, again, got a nomination is so freaking good, and Metaphor ReFantazio is just great, man. You know, it's the game that came out the most recently. It only came out in, like, October, so this is a very crazy shift from, like, this coming out and this being nominated for Game of the Year, so I have some very high hopes for this. I hope this game does bring in more wins. If it gets Game of the Year, fantastic, but overall, Metaphor is great. I love it. I'm glad that it's getting more recognition. I'm glad that people enjoyed it long enough that it got, you know, this fun stuff. But yeah, Metaphor is great. Great turn-based RPG. Great throwback for Atlus. And honestly, I cannot wait to see what they're gonna cook out in the future, because oh my god, this is the great stuff, man. And finally, we have the game that's sparking the most controversy, Elden Ring Shadows of the Erdtree. Now listen, I didn't play Elden Ring when it came out. You know, that was a game that was like, I'll get to it when I get to it, whatever. It won Game of the Year in 2022, and people really loved it, and I was like, cool, awesome, I'll get it when I get to it. Then they announced DLC for it, or more so an expansion, where it was like, you know, I guess another story in the same world. I don't really know, I again haven't played it. But people really spoke positively of Shadows of the Erdtree. You know, it was just more Elden Ring, more of the great gameplay, more weapons, and more fun that really gave, you know, more hours to play. Like, it's like a 60-hour type expansion, which is just amazing. But the big thing is that it's DLC, and a lot of the other games on this list are either, you know, remakes or original IP, but this is DLC to a game that won Game of the Year back in 2022. A lot of people are like, should this really count? Should this not? And honestly, like, I don't know really. I can't really answer that, because I'm not the ones who, you know, was in the voting process. But like, if it does win Game of the Year, a lot of people are gonna be mad. If it doesn't win Game of the Year, a lot of people are gonna be mad. So either way, it's a double-edged sword type of deal, you know. But from what I've heard, it's still a very very enjoyable experience. It's its own little expansion in that world, and while it would be fun to have another original game that came out in 2024 to take that crown, it's still something that came out this year that people really seem to enjoy, so I'm not going to really fault them on that. But again, the fact that it's DLC is kind of iffy, but again, if it's good, it's good. Not going to harp on that, but that's really what it is. So yeah, Shadows of the Erdtree is our 6th and final game on the nomination list, and it is certainly a way to end off that craziness of it all. Oh my god. Now, before we end the discussion on the whole nominations for Game of the Year, I think I should probably talk about the things that I want to see, you know, the nominations that I want to see. And before they released the list, I was only going to pick one game, but since after they revealing the full lineup of 6 games, I was like, yeah, no, there's no way I can not pick 2 games, and those 2 games are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Astrobot. If either of those 2 games won Game of the Year, I would be so extremely happy because, you know, one's a great, you know, action RPG full of great characters, music, and story, and the other one's a fantastic, goofy little 3D platformer that just brings back and harkens back to that fun joy of the early 2000s. So honestly, either one of those, I'd be really happy with. But there's something like Black Myth Wukong or Metaphor or Balastro 1, I'd be happy with that too. And even Shadows of the Erdtree, which again is kind of iffy, it's fine. But me personally, FF7 Rebirth and Astrobot are my picks for Game of the Year, and if any of those 2 win, I'll be a happy guy because those 2 are some of the best PlayStation exclusives we have right now. They're great games, and if you have not played them, play either of them because they will give you a grand old time. And overall, whatever wins or doesn't win, I'm just happy to watch the awards again, even though sometimes it can be kind of eh. Just seeing new reveals and just seeing games get recognition is always fun to see, and I just love seeing this whole audience of video game lovers and enjoyers coming together, and that just makes me super happy. So yeah, there you go. That was my whole thing about the nominations for Game of the Year. I just at least wanted to make a video on it because just making a simple TikTok wouldn't have been enough. So I want to give my thoughts on all 6 games and how, what I think what's going to win, what's not going to win, and all that fun stuff. And hopefully the actual winner won't be too polarizing. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers. But until then, all you can really do is wait, vote for the games, and hopefully make our favorite the winner and all there, because oh boy, it's going to be a crazy month wait to see what happens for the Game of the Year nominations, because oh my god. If you excuse me, I'm gonna go play more Astrobot because I love being a little robot man jumping around, collecting Ratchet and Clanks in my briefcase. I don't know. Astro away!